He woke up to find a stranger in his kitchen wearing his shirt. A billionaire CEO, making coffee like she owned the place. And he had no memory of how she got there. But what happened next? Nobody saw coming. Because 24 hours earlier, this man was counting coins for groceries. His daughter was wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. And he was 1 bad month away from losing everything. Then came the storm. The crash. The choice that would change 3 lives forever. This is a story about a single father who saved a woman's life and refused her money. And how that one act of dignity sparked something the world desperately needs to see. If you believe kindness is more powerful than wealth, you need to hear what happens next. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the people with the least to give the most. Stay with me. This one will restore your faith in humanity. His name is Daniel, 36 years old, hands rough from hard work, heart soft from raising his daughter alone. Every morning, he woke up wondering if today would be the day he couldn't make rent. Every night, he went to sleep grateful they had a roof over their heads, even if it wasn't much. Daniel used to be an engineer. Good job, steady income, a future that looked bright. But life has a way of changing your plans. His wife left when their daughter was just 2 years old. Left a note on the kitchen counter and never came back. So Daniel became both mother and father to little Emma. And somewhere between the sleepless nights and the doctor's appointments and the school meetings, his career slipped away. Now he fixed things. Broken pipes. Faulty wiring. Leaking roofs. Whatever people needed, Daniel could fix it. Well, almost everything. He couldn't fix his bank account. Couldn't fix the worry that kept him up at night. But he could fix a sink, and that was something. Emma was 7 now. Beautiful brown eyes that lit up when she smiled. Curly hair that bounced when she ran. She was smart, too smart sometimes. She knew they were struggling, even though Daniel tried to hide it. She'd seen him count coins for groceries. Seen him skip meals so she could have seconds. She never complained. Never asked for the toys other kids had. One night, Daniel told her something he hoped she'd always remember. "Baby girl," he said, tucking her into bed. "We might not have a lot of money, but we're rich in the things that matter. We have each other. And we have our dignity. Nobody can take that from us." Emma nodded, her small hand squeezing his. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" "Always, sweetheart. I promise you, always." But that night, Daniel wasn't sure if he could keep that promise. The storm came without warning. Rain hammered down like bullets. Thunder shook the windows. Lightning split the sky in half. Daniel was driving home late from a repair job, his old truck struggling through flooded streets. The wipers could barely keep up. He could hardly see 10 feet ahead. That's when he saw the car. A luxury sedan wrapped around a tree, smoke pouring from the hood, one headlight flickering like a dying heartbeat. Daniel didn't think. Didn't calculate the risk. He just pulled over, jumped out into the freezing rain and ran. Inside the car was a woman, mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit that was now soaked with rain and blood. Her face was pale, eyes wide with terror. The seatbelt had her trapped, and the engine was sparking dangerously. "Help me," she whispered. "Please, I can't. I can't breathe." Daniel's hands moved on instinct. He smashed the window with his elbow, ignoring the pain. Found his pocket knife, cut through the seatbelt. Pulled her out just as flames erupted from under the hood. They collapsed together on the muddy ground, both gasping for air. The woman was shaking violently. Shock, maybe. Hypothermia, definitely. The hospital was miles away, and half the roads were flooded. Daniel made a decision that would change his life forever. "My house is close," he said. "We need to get you warm and safe." She nodded, too weak to argue. His house was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. But it was warm and dry. Daniel carried the woman inside, laid her on his bed, the only real bed in the house, and covered her with every blanket he owned. He checked her pulse, checked her breathing. She was unconscious but stable. Daniel grabbed a pillow and went to the couch. That would be his bed tonight. He didn't mind. He'd slept in worse places. Around midnight, Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, who's that lady in your bed?" "She was in an accident, baby. She needed help." "Is she going to be okay?" "I think so. Go back to sleep now." Emma walked over and hugged him tight. "You're the best daddy in the whole world. You know that." Daniel's eyes burned with tears he wouldn't let fall. "I'm just doing what's right, sweetheart." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the woman's face for just a moment. Daniel noticed something then. the expensive watch on the nightstand, the designer purse, the suit that probably cost more than his truck. This wasn't just anyone. This was someone important, someone wealthy. But in that moment, lying unconscious in his bed, she was just a person who needed help. And Daniel had given it without thinking twice, without expecting anything in return, because that's who he was. He sat on that couch all night, watching the bedroom door, making sure she was breathing, making sure she was safe. The storm raged outside, but inside, everything was quiet, peaceful even. Daniel didn't know it then, but that storm wasn't just washing away the streets. It was washing away his old life. Everything was about to change. For better or worse, nothing would ever be the same again. Sometimes life puts you at a crossroads without warning. Sometimes you have to make a choice in seconds that will echo for years. Daniel had made his choice. He'd chosen kindness over caution, compassion over convenience, humanity over hesitation. And tomorrow morning, he'd discover exactly what that choice had cost him. Or perhaps what it had earned him. The rain continued to fall. The thunder continued to roll. And Daniel sat in the darkness, watching over a stranger, being the man he'd taught his daughter to recognize. The kind of man who doesn't walk away when someone needs help. The kind of man the world needs more of. Morning light crept through the thin curtains. Daniel woke up stiff from the couch, his neck aching. He rubbed his eyes and looked toward the bedroom. The door was still closed. He stood up quietly, not wanting to wake Emma, and started making coffee. That's when he heard footsteps behind him. Daniel turned around and froze completely. The woman stood in his kitchen doorway wearing his white dress shirt, the one he'd left on the chair last night. Her hair was messy, falling loose around her shoulders. But her eyes were sharp and awake, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. She smiled. Small. Controlled. You really don't remember anything from last night, do you? Daniel's face flushed hot. Wait, who are you? She set down the coffee cup she'd somehow already poured. I'm the woman whose life you saved. And the woman whose company happens to own this house you're renting. Daniel's heart stopped. His mouth went dry. He stood there, unable to move, unable to speak. Emma's giggle came from the hallway. She peeked around the corner, eyes wide with curiosity. The woman looked at him again, and this time there was something different in her expression. Something almost sad. We need to talk, Daniel. His name. She knew his name. How did she know his name? Let me tell you who Daniel really was. He used to have dreams, big ones. An engineering degree from a good school. Job offers from 3 companies. A future that looked like something out of a movie. Then Emma's mother left, and those dreams got packed away in a box somewhere, buried under diapers and bills and worry. Now he was just a single dad doing whatever it took to survive. Fixing broken things for people who could afford to pay him. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they didn't. He never pushed. Never complained. He just worked harder. Emma was his whole world. 7 years old with her mother's smile and her father's stubbornness. Smart as a whip. Kind as summer rain. She understood more than most kids her age. Understood that daddy worked hard and money was tight, and some months they ate rice and beans for dinner 3 times a week. But Daniel taught her something important. We might not have money, baby girl, but we're not broken. We bend, but we don't break. Now this woman was standing in his kitchen, wearing his shirt, looking at him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. And Daniel felt more confused than he'd ever been in his life. Look, he said, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. I can call you a cab or something. Your clothes should be dry by now. No need, she replied calmly. My driver's been outside since 6 this morning. Your driver? Daniel blinked. You could have left hours ago. I wanted to thank you properly first. She walked closer, and he could smell his own soap on her skin. And return this. She gestured to the shirt, but made no move to take it off. Emma ran into the kitchen, her eyes bright with excitement. Who are you? She asked directly. The woman knelt down, meeting Emma at eye level. Just someone your daddy helped when I was in trouble. Daniel found his voice again. Emma, go get ready for school. But Daddy. Now please. Emma pouted but obeyed, disappearing into her tiny room. The woman watched the exchange carefully. She's beautiful. You're raising her alone. That's none of your business, Daniel said, sharper than he meant to. Fair enough. She reached into her expensive purse and pulled out a wallet. Thick leather probably costs more than his monthly rent. She placed a stack of cash on the table. $100 bills. At least $2,000. Daniel stared at the money. Then at her. What's this for? For last night. For the bed, the shirt, everything. Something inside Daniel snapped. He grabbed the money and shoved it back toward her. Take it back. I don't want your money. Her expression didn't change. Cool. Collected. Most people would have taken it. I'm not most people. She tilted her head, studying him like he was some rare species she'd never encountered before. No, you're definitely not. She picked up the money slowly, folded it, and put it away. My mistake. I thought I was being generous. Generous? Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think throwing cash around makes you generous? Real generosity is helping someone because it's the right thing to do, not because you feel obligated. The woman stood there, silent. For the first time, she looked genuinely uncomfortable. I see, she said quietly. Do you? Daniel turned away, gripping the counter. Because from where I'm standing, you just tried to turn something decent into a business transaction. The silence that followed was heavy, thick enough to choke on. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer now. You're right. I apologize. Daniel didn't respond. Couldn't respond. He was too angry, too hurt that she'd misunderstood everything. She walked toward the door, stopped with her hand on the knob, and looked back. What's your name? Your full name. Daniel Cooper. Daniel Cooper, she repeated slowly, like she was memorizing it. I won't forget it. Then she left. The door closed softly behind her. Emma emerged from her room, backpack already on her shoulders. Is she going to be your girlfriend now, Daddy? Despite everything, Daniel smiled. No, sweetheart. She's just complicated. I think she likes you. What makes you say that? Emma grinned. Because she looks at you the way you look at pancakes. Daniel burst out laughing, the tension finally breaking. He picked Emma up and spun her around. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? But as he got Emma ready for school, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. That woman, whoever she was, had looked at him like she'd never been told no before. Like he'd challenged something fundamental in her world. He had no idea how right he was. That afternoon, Daniel picked Emma up from school like always. They stopped at the small grocery store on the corner, and he counted his money carefully. Enough for rice, eggs, and some vegetables. Maybe a small treat for Emma if he stretched it just right. At home, he turned on the TV while cooking dinner. The news played in the background, something he barely paid attention to anymore. Too depressing. Too much about people whose lives were nothing like his. Then he heard it. Breaking news. CEO Isabella Grant, survivor of last night's devastating car crash, returned to work today. Sources say a resident pulled her from the burning vehicle just in time. Daniel froze, wooden spoon halfway to the pot. He turned slowly toward the TV. There she was, the woman from this morning. But now she was wearing a sharp black business suit, standing in front of a massive glass building. The logo behind her read Grant Industries, in letters 10 feet tall. The reporter continued. Miss Grant refused to name her rescuer, but she did have this to say. The screen cut to Isabella, microphones thrust in her face, camera flashes going off like fireworks. She looked composed, powerful, completely in control. He was kind, she said, her voice clear and strong. Humble. And he refused payment. That's the kind of integrity you can't buy. That's the kind of person this world needs more of. Daniel stood there, mouth open, unable to process what he was seeing. Emma tugged his sleeve. Daddy, that's the lady from this morning. Yeah, kiddo. It is. She's famous. Seems like it. Emma's eyes went wide with excitement. You saved a CEO. That's so cool. Daniel turned off the TV, went back to cooking, but his mind was racing. Isabella Grant, one of the richest women in the state, known for buying companies, building empires, and making deals that changed entire industries. And he'd just yelled at her, threw her money back in her face, told her she didn't understand what generosity meant. He laughed. Couldn't help it. Well, that's just my luck. Emma climbed onto a chair. Do you think she'll come back? I doubt it, sweetheart. People like her don't come back to neighborhoods like this. I hope she does. I liked her. Daniel smiled and ruffled Emma's hair. You like everyone. Not everyone, Emma said seriously. Just people who are nice underneath all the fancy stuff. Maybe his daughter was right. Maybe Isabella wasn't just some cold businesswoman. Maybe underneath that expensive suit and that controlled smile, there was something real. Something human. But he'd never know. People like her lived in a different world. Their paths had crossed for one night, and now they'd diverge forever. That chapter was closed. Or so he thought. 3 days passed. Daniel tried to forget about Isabella Grant. He had work to do. A burst pipe at Emma's school. A broken water heater for Mrs. Chin next door. A rewiring job that took 14 hours and paid barely enough to cover groceries. He was at the school, hands dirty, grease on his shirt, lying under a sink when he heard it. A car engine. Smooth. Expensive. The kind of sound that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Daniel crawled out from under the sink and looked up. A black luxury sedan pulled into the school parking lot. Tinted windows. Chrome details. The kind of car that costs more than most people make in a year. The door opened. Isabella Grant stepped out. White business suit. Heels clicking on pavement like a countdown. Sunglasses covering her eyes. She walked straight toward him, purposeful, determined. Parents stopped talking. Teachers stared. Everyone watched. Daniel stood up, wiped his hands on a rag, leaving grease streaks everywhere. "Can I help you?" She removed her sunglasses and looked directly at him. "Mr. Cooper, we need to talk." He sighed. "If this is about the money again." "It's not." Her voice was firm. "It's about the truth." She pulled out her phone and turned it toward him. Security footage, grainy and time-stamped. It showed Daniel carrying her from the burning car, rain pouring down, flames erupting behind them. His face was clear, determined, almost fierce in its focus. "You saved my life," she said quietly. "And I didn't even thank you properly." Daniel shrugged. "You already did. By walking away." She flinched just slightly. That was cold. So was treating kindness like a business deal. The tension between them was thick, electric. People were definitely watching now, phones out, probably recording every word. Isabella looked past him and saw Emma on the playground, laughing with friends, her braids bouncing as she ran. Something in Isabella's expression softened. "She's your daughter." "My whole world," Daniel said simply. Isabella watched Emma for a long moment. "She's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her." Isabella stepped closer, lowered her voice. "Daniel, I came here to apologize. And to make something right. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. But I want to do this anyway." She pulled an envelope from her bag and opened it. Inside was a legal document. Daniel recognized the letterhead immediately, his landlord's property management company. "What is this?" His voice came out rough, suspicious. "I own the building you rent. As of yesterday, I bought it outright." His stomach dropped. "You what?" "And as of this morning, your lease is paid off. The house is yours. Free and clear." Daniel stepped back, shaking his head. No, I can't accept this. It's already done." "Then undo it." His voice rose, drawing more attention. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity." Isabella's eyes held his, steady and sincere. "It's gratitude. I don't need. Everyone needs help sometimes, Daniel." Her voice cracked just a little. "Even me. Especially me." He paused. Something in her eyes looked broken. Vulnerable. This wasn't just about him. This was about something deeper. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. Isabella looked away. "I grew up in foster care. Group homes. I clawed my way to the top. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to be helpless." She turned back to him. "Until that crash. Until you reminded me." The playground noise faded. The watching crowd faded. It was just the two of them, standing in a school parking lot, two people from different worlds finding something unexpected. Understanding. Daniel stared at the legal documents in his hands. His house. Paid in full. The weight of worry he'd carried for years suddenly lifted, and it terrified him. "Why?" he asked. "Why me?" Isabella took a breath. "Because when I asked myself who in this world deserves a break, who deserves something good to happen, your face was the only one I could see." She pulled out another document. "And there's more. I don't want more. Just listen." She handed him the paper. "I'm launching a foundation for single parents. Specifically single fathers. Financial support, job training, childcare assistance, everything people like you need but can never access." Daniel scanned the document. His eyes widened. "The Cooper Fund. I used your name. I hope that's okay. You named a foundation after me? It represents something I'd forgotten about." Her voice was soft now, almost fragile. Quiet strength. Honest work. Human decency. He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Behind the expensive clothes and the powerful presence, he saw someone who was tired. Someone who'd been fighting alone for so long. She'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone fight beside her. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want you to help me." She stepped closer. Help me identify families who need support. You know this community. You know these people. I don't. I need someone to keep me honest. Make sure this actually helps people instead of just making me feel better about myself." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Emma was still playing, laughing, innocent and happy. He thought about all the nights he'd stayed awake worrying, about the times he'd skipped meals so she could eat, about the fear that lived in his chest every single day that he wasn't enough. "If I do this," he said slowly, "we do it my way. No cameras, no press conferences, just real help for real people." Isabella extended her hand. "Deal." He shook it. Her grip was firm, equal, respectful. Then she smiled, and it was genuine this time. Warm. Real. "Oh, and one more thing." "What?" "I still have your shirt." Daniel laughed, actually laughed. "Keep it. It looks better on you anyway." A small crowd had formed, parents, teachers, kids. Someone's phone was definitely recording. A reporter pushed forward. "Miss Grant, are you two together?" Isabella glanced at Daniel, her eyes sparkling with something playful. "Not yet, but he did lend me his favorite shirt." The crowd erupted in laughter and whispers. Daniel shook his head, grinning despite himself. "You're impossible. I prefer determined." Emma ran over, breathless and excited. "Daddy, is that the lady from TV?" "Yes, sweetheart." Emma looked up at Isabella. "Are you going to help my daddy?" Isabella knelt down to Emma's level. "I'm going to try. Is that okay with you? Only if you're nice to him. He's the best daddy in the whole world." "I can see that." Isabella's voice was genuine. "I promise I'll be nice." Emma hugged her suddenly, spontaneously. Isabella froze, clearly not used to this kind of affection. Then slowly, carefully, she hugged back. When Emma ran back to her friends, Isabella stood with tears in her eyes. "She's incredible," Isabella whispered. "She's my reason for everything." "Then let's make sure her daddy doesn't have to struggle anymore." Over the next month, something unexpected happened. Isabella kept her promise. She showed up, not with cameras or reporters, but with genuine interest. She met the families Daniel recommended, listened to their stories, wrote checks without hesitation, and slowly, the Cooper Fund started changing lives. Daniel found himself talking to Isabella more and more. Coffee in the morning before work. Phone calls late at night about families who needed help. Dinners with Emma, who decided Isabella was her new best friend. And somewhere in those conversations, something shifted. Daniel saw past the CEO to the woman who'd grown up with nothing, who'd survived foster care and built an empire through sheer determination, who'd forgotten how to be vulnerable until a storm forced her to accept help from a stranger. Isabella saw past the struggling handyman to the man who'd sacrificed everything for his daughter, who worked himself to exhaustion without complaint, who had every reason to be bitter but chose kindness instead. One evening, Isabella came to dinner. Nothing fancy, spaghetti and cheap garlic bread. But Emma was happy, and that made everything perfect. After Emma went to bed, they sat on Daniel's small porch, drinking coffee, watching the neighborhood settle into the night. "Thank you," Isabella said quietly. "For what?" "For not treating me like Isabella Grant, CEO. For treating me like just Isabella." Daniel smiled. "Is that who you are? Just Isabella?" "I haven't been just Isabella in a very long time." She looked at him. "But around you and Emma, I remember what that feels like." "And what does it feel like?" "Like home." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Daniel reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "You know what Emma asked me the other day?" he said. "What?" "She asked if you were going to be her new mom." Isabella's breath caught. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that life doesn't work that way. That you can't just decide someone's going to be family." "But," Isabella prompted, hearing the unfinished thought. "But I'm starting to think I was wrong." He squeezed her hand. "Family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up. The people who stay. The people who choose to love you even when it's complicated." Isabella's tears fell freely now. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that you've shown up every day for a month. You've been there for Emma. For me. For people you've never met. And somewhere along the way, you stopped being the woman I saved in a storm. You became the woman I can't imagine living without." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through her tears. "I have something for you. Tomorrow. Will you trust me? Always." The next morning, Isabella picked up Daniel and Emma in her car. Not the luxury sedan with the driver, but a regular car. Something normal. Something that felt like them. "Where are we going?" Emma asked, bouncing in the back seat. It's a surprise, Isabella said, glancing at Daniel with a mysterious smile. They drove through town, past the neighborhoods Daniel knew, into an area he rarely visited. Nicer houses. Better streets. Emma pressed her face to the window, watching everything with wide eyes. Isabella pulled up to a small storefront. The sign above it was covered with a tarp. What is this? Daniel asked. Come see. They got out of the car. Isabella pulled a cord and the tarp fell away, revealing the sign. Cooper Mechanics, in partnership with Grant Foundation. Daniel stood frozen, staring at his name on a building. His own shop. Everything he'd dreamed about but never thought possible. It's yours, Isabella said softly. Everything inside is new. Tools, equipment, everything you need to build your own business. Daniel's voice broke. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. She took his hand. Because you deserve it. And because I believe in you. Emma tugged Isabella's sleeve. Does this mean Daddy doesn't have to work so hard anymore? It means Daddy can build something of his own. Something that's his. They walked inside together. The shop was small but perfect. Clean. Organized. Everything Daniel had ever wanted. He ran his hand along the workbench, still not quite believing it was real. Isabella pulled an envelope from her pocket. There's one more thing. Daniel's hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Daniel, you saved my life in a storm. But you did more than that. You saved me from becoming someone I hated. Someone who measured worth in dollars instead of character. Someone who'd forgotten that the greatest wealth is kindness, integrity, and love. Over this past month, you've shown me what family means. Not the family you're born into, but the family you choose. The family you build through showing up, through caring, through staying even when it's hard. Emma asked me yesterday if I wanted to be her mom. I didn't know how to answer. But then I realized, I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to be there. To be part of your lives. To love you both the way you've loved me. Unconditionally. Completely. So I'm asking you something I never thought I'd have the courage to ask anyone. Will you marry me? Not because you saved my life, but because you showed me how to live it. All my love, Isabella. Daniel looked up, tears streaming down his face. Isabella was kneeling on one knee, holding a simple ring. I'm not doing this because I'm rich, she said. I'm doing this because you made me rich in all the ways that matter. So what do you say, Daniel Cooper? Will you marry me? Emma screamed with joy before Daniel could answer. She jumped up and down, clapping her hands. Say yes, Daddy. Say yes. Daniel pulled Isabella to her feet and kissed her. Deep and long and full of everything he'd been too scared to say out loud. Yes, he whispered against her lips. 1,000 times yes. Emma crashed into them both, wrapping her arms around their legs. We're going to be a real family. Isabella picked Emma up, held her close. We already are, sweetheart. We already are. 6 months later, they had a small wedding. Nothing fancy. Just close friends in Daniel's backyard. Their backyard now. Emma stood between them in a white dress, holding both their hands, flowers in her hair. The officiant spoke. Do you, Daniel? I do, Daniel interrupted. Everyone laughed. I didn't finish, the officiant said. I don't need you to. I do. Forever. Isabella was crying and laughing at the same time. My turn. I do. I absolutely do. I haven't asked you yet. Don't care. The answer is yes. They kissed before permission was given. They didn't care. Emma cheered. Their friends applauded. It was perfect in its imperfection. At the reception, Daniel gave Isabella a small box. Inside was a key. What's this? The key to my old truck. The one from that night. I kept it. Restored it. It's yours now. Isabella stared at the key, then at him. You kept it. Some things are worth keeping. He pulled her close. Like us. Especially us, she whispered. They danced as the sun set, orange and gold painting the sky. Emma danced with them, the three of them swaying together, a family forged in a storm, built on respect, sealed with love. Sometimes kindness saves a life, Isabella said softly. Sometimes it saves two, Daniel added. Emma looked up at both of them. Sometimes three. As the stars came out, Daniel thought about that night in the storm. How he'd had no idea that saving one person would lead to this. To love. To family. To a life he'd never dared to dream was possible. Isabella had changed everything. But not with her money. Not with her power. With her vulnerability. With her willingness to be saved. with her courage to open her heart to a man and a little girl who showed her what really mattered. And Daniel had changed too. He'd learned that accepting help wasn't weakness. That pride could be a prison. That sometimes the greatest strength is admitting you can't do it alone. Together, they were building something beautiful. Not perfect, nothing ever is. But real. Honest. True. The kind of love that starts with kindness and grows into forever. Emma fell asleep between them on the couch that night, still in her flower girl dress. Daniel carried her to bed. Her room in their house, the house Isabella had given him, that was now theirs. Isabella stood in the doorway, watching him tuck Emma in. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For saving me. For showing me what home feels like." Daniel kissed her softly. "Thank you for coming back. For staying. For choosing us." "Every day," Isabella promised. "I'll choose you every day." And she meant it, because sometimes the greatest love stories don't start with love at all. They start with a storm, a stranger, and one person brave enough to do the right thing. Everything else is just two hearts learning to beat as one.